What's doing, everybody? Today is Thursday, August 8th. Tim Walz comes under fire for his stolen valor. He's also the most anti-parent person in politics. Here to break it down with me today, Aly Legge of Moms for America and former Navy SEAL Erik Prince. I'm Alec Legge. This is the Alec Legge Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Legge Show. The future is family.
All right, let's do this. Welcome, everybody, to the Alec Legge Show. I'm happy and honored, as always, to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this broadcast live on Rumble, please get down there, hit the like button, share a comment, and don't forget to follow the channel here on Rumble. Share it with everybody in your network, in your neighborhood, and thank you so much for all your support. You know, I think I forgot to mention this, too, but last week, the Alec Legge Show has passed 5 million views here on Rumble. So, again, thank you guys so much for your continued support of the podcast here. If you're new to the show, please go through, check out so many of the amazing guests that I've had on the podcast. Got 2 of them today. We're going to get to it in just a bit, talking about Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick, which is Tim Walz. And we didn't really get too much into that on Tuesday, and I wanted to get a deeper dive into it today because this guy and her together, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz together, is a ticket from hell. It really is. It's the most anti-American, anti-parent ticket you could possibly see. This is a worst case scenario if you had 2 people like this running the country. So it's definitely an all hands on deck. You got to wake up the people in your neighborhood who don't usually vote, don't usually go to the polls. Politics ain't their thing. You got to get in their ear and explain to them how dangerous these 2 people are together, because it is bad. Now, right now, Tim Walz is coming under fire from the military community, specifically the combat veteran community, because this is a guy now that has been accused of stolen valor. And now, I'm not somebody that has ever served in the military. I take my hat off to anybody who has served. I'm grateful for your service, whether you went to combat or not. Now, somebody who claims to have been in combat when they weren't, this is a major, major issue, and not just with regular citizens like me who find that to be very misleading and very, very bad to do something like that, but to the combat veterans themselves, this is a no-go. They do not take lightly to that type of rhetoric coming from people that were never on the battlefield. When you have people that buried their brothers, some that buried their sisters on the battlefield, all right? You have people that are wounded for the rest of their life that were in real battles. So when you have somebody who claims that they were at war, carrying a weapon of war in war, when they really were never anywhere near a war, this is a big problem. And the veteran community, the combat veteran community, has come out and they are lashing out at this vice president pick of Kamala Harris. Now, this is probably on my, this is one of the least things to worry about with him, although it is one of the most appalling things about him. But dangerous for our country in so many other ways. This has pissed off all the wrong people, and they are coming out. Now, I'm going to play the clip of him that went viral, that caused all this stir. Here it is.
Woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and Dad said, "Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this." I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at. That those weapons of war that I carried in war.
Now, this set off a chain reaction. Stolen, Saturday I'll be swimming with the Navy SEALs across the Hudson River again. I'll talk more about that at the end of the podcast here. But, just being around these guys, I can tell you one thing. They do not go for people that, number one, pretend to be. Now, the SEAL community has had a problem with this. I think it was Dan Shipley who did the fake SEAL. He was constantly finding these imposters, these people that claim to be Navy SEALs that never were. Seal Hunter, I think, is what his show was called. It was popular on YouTube for a very, very long time. His son is actually a Navy SEAL Team 6 operator, too. But he was somebody that went out and found these fake SEALs, like people that are claiming, because the SEALs became a huge phenomenon. And so people that either even served in the military or didn't serve at all try to walk around claiming that they were Navy SEALs. And so they go after these guys. And in the SEAL community, there's nothing worse than somebody that's stolen valor in a sense of saying that they were a SEAL. So some people even go as far to get SEAL tattoos on their body. I mean, this guy has found people that are that crazy that have done that, and it's a disservice and a dishonor to all of the people that have gone through the pipeline to earn that trident, to earn that title of SEAL. So that's one part of that stolen valor, that people just despise it. It is so despicable. It's okay to be who you are. You served in the military, stand on your military record. Be proud that you served the country. There's honor in that. Why do you need to take it to another level and say you did something that you didn't do? There's no reason for it. This guy, Tim Walz, you served the country. You did your part. That's fine. But why in the world would you have to try to lie and pretend to be something that you weren't? It makes zero sense to do it. Now, a lot of the people have come out against him in his own community, saying that when they found out that his unit was going to be deploying to Iraq in a combat situation is when he decided playing soldier is over for me. And he packed it in, went home, and ran for Congress. So here's some of the quotes that we've been hearing about this. As soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way, hung his hat up, and quit. That's from retired Command Sergeant Major Tom B. Renz. The bottom line in all of this is gut-wrenching and sad to explain. When the nation called, he quit. Retired Command Sergeant Major Paul Herr. But here's the truth you won't hear from the mainstream media. Tim Walz abandoned his men before a combat deployment, and he abandoned his city when it was literally on fire. That's the kind of leader Tim Walz truly is. Dan Holloway, veteran of the 82nd Airborne. All right, so these go on and on. There's so many of these different comments, and you even had a trend going with combat veterans posting pictures here, like this one here. Sean Parnell, here's me not being Tim Walz, right? Here's Navy SEAL Drago Dezarian, same thing. Here's former SEAL Sean Ryan, same thing. So this became a trend to do of combat veterans, showing pictures of themselves saying, hey, this is me not being Tim Walz. Because not only is it the two-part of this, it's a 1-2 combo. And I do have, Navy SEAL Erik Prince joining me in a little while. So I'm going to get his take on this. Somebody who has, worn the trident. But you have two parts of this. One is the fact that this guy lied and said he was in combat when he was not. And the second part of this is that when he found out he was going into combat, he quit on his team. And so that is the two parts of this that is really crushing Tim Walz right now in the press, in the media. Now, I would say, not so much in the press because X has been all over it. It's been trending for a long time now. So if you're not on X, you're not seeing all these things like I just read you. But even CNN, it's gotten so bad where CNN even had to comment on it. Take a listen to this.
Walz did make a comment speaking to a group. He's done it a couple of times where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you. There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about.
So it's definitely out there now. Whether or not, I'm sure that they knew about this, the Biden-Harris administration, as they were doing their vetting process. Why they decided to not get out in front of this is very head-scratching, just because you would think the guy would have came out and said, hey, I have misrepresented myself in the past. I apologize for that. I was honored to serve, and I take my hat off to all of our combat veterans. I never meant to insult anybody. Like, you should have got out right ahead of this before it came out this way, because now it looks terrible for the Biden-Harris administration. We're going to talk more about what's worse about that, too, coming up. But also, as this one guy was saying, he abandoned his city and his state during the George Floyd riots. This guy let his whole state go to hell during this George Floyd BML riots. This guy did nothing to help the business owners that had their lives destroyed. Right? You had so much damage done by all these people. Now, I'm going to play you two clips here, and I think they're important. And this is absolutely bonkers. Here's a clip of a black-owned business. Here's the owner talking about how he lost everything in the Black Lives Matter. Apparently his life and his business and livelihood didn't matter because they destroyed his business. You're going to hear from him. This is at the time this happened. And then you're going to hear a clip from Tim Walz's wife talking about the BLM riots and what they meant to her. So take a listen to these two.
First of all, lost so much with COVID-19 and now has pretty much lost everything because of some of this violence. Where is your mind at tonight?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be on right now. It's been kind of surreal what have happened. It was a long process just getting where I was as far as with the business, and to just see it go away in a split of a day was kind of crazy. So it still feels like a dream, actually.
Do you have insurance?
No, I didn't have insurance at the time when it happened.
So have you lost everything?
Yep, I did lose everything. Because when I first signed my lease to the property back in November, I did have insurance. And then due to COVID-19, we didn't know when it was going to open. Speaking to my insurance agent, he told me to just kind of suspend it and just put it on, a week or two before we could open. So I didn't have insurance when the building was burned down a couple of days ago.
We're seeing the photos you sent us of the coming soon sign and then the windows broken and the sign going down. We've seen the images of your hometown, burnt out buildings, graffiti.
I would say those first days, when there were riots, I could smell the burning tires. And that was a very real thing. And I kept the windows open for as long as I could because I felt like that was such a touchstone of what was happening.
She left the windows open so she could smell the burning tires because that was a touchstone of what was happening. How sick in the head do you have to be as an individual? You go smelling. Now, during these Minneapolis, St. Paul riots, there was over $500 million worth of damage, 1,500 property locations that were destroyed, 164 instances of arson, and 2 deaths. Now, you're leaving the window open to smell the touchstone of what was happening? You're touched in the head. This woman is a psycho. These people were all for the riot. Now, you had people that were out there destroying businesses and properties, and then who was bailing them out? Kamala Harris was adding money to a fund and raising money to bail out the rioters. So you had one person allowing it to happen, and then another person bailing out the people that continued to keep going. Like, these people are sick. But here's a guy, too, right before she spoke. Here's the guy talking about how he lost his business. His business was burnt, destroyed. He lost everything. He didn't have the insurance on his business because COVID-19 hit, and business owners were saving money by saying, well, if we're not having any business coming in, why am I paying for this insurance? So he doesn't continue his insurance, and they destroyed the business. The guy lost everything. And it's a black-owned business. Does anybody care? Here's the could-be possible vice president's wife talking about, I left the window open so I could smell the aroma of the burning tires. It was the touchstone. Where do they find these people, man? Where do they get these idiots? But Tim Walz is dangerous. Now, again, the stolen valor, it's a big issue for a lot of people. And what he did during the Black Lives Matter rallies is a big deal to a lot of people. What's the biggest deal to me is the fact that this guy is the most anti-parent person in politics. This guy is a danger to parents. He does not believe that parents are the rightful guardian of their kids. He believes that the state has ownership of the children. This is a guy that believes the state knows better than the parent for what's right for the kids. So much so that this guy signs a bill into law that kids can get these transgender surgeries, can get their dicks chopped off, their breasts cut off, without any consent from the parents whatsoever. You can't get more radical than that. And it's a true story. This guy wants to keep the seat. Now, some places like here in New Jersey, in the communist state of New Jersey, you've got this radical governor who wants to make sure that teachers don't have to tell the parents when their children change their name, like their pronouns. So if Sally wants to become Sam, the teachers don't tell the parents about that. That's the secrets that they're keeping. Tim Walz goes a lot farther than this, where you don't even have to tell the parents if the child decides to cut off his genitals. And it's a sanctuary for transgenders because kids can come from out of state and get this done as well. That's how radical this guy is. Also, too, when you talk about abortion, I'm going to bring Aly Legge on here, too, to get the mom's perspective on this. But when you talk about abortion, this is a guy that has no limits on abortion. Nothing. He signs a bill, no limits in Minnesota on abortion. So much so that when the baby is aborted and they fail to abort the baby and the baby's born alive, they don't resuscitate. They just let the baby die. There's no like, oh, this limit or that limit. There's no limits. And another thing, too, is that underage kids are allowed to come in and get abortions without their parents' consent, and they are not required to tell the parents at all. So you talk about keeping a secret from the parent. One thing about, what pronouns he's using. Here's another one where you're not even allowed to tell the parents that they're having an abortion? Like, what in the world's going on here? Here it is here. If you're in Minnesota and you need an abortion, abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in the pregnancy you are. Parental involvement is not required in Minnesota. If you're younger than 18, you can consent to an abortion and do not have to notify a parent to get an abortion in Minnesota. All right? The list goes on and on with this guy, but I'm telling you, this guy is dangerous out there. Parents are, children are a blessing to parents. They belong to their parents as a blessing from God our Father. That's the truth. They don't belong to the state and they don't belong to the government. They don't belong to the school system. They belong to the parents. And the state, these Marxist communist bastards really believe that they have control over the kids. They're giving the kids the power over their parents. Like the other lunatic who's saying, we need to listen to the children. And if they tell you this is who they are, then we need to believe them. No, that's not how this works. You're dealing with children who don't have the mental capacity to tell you what they are. You have kids that think they're Superman. You have kids that think they could be Spider-Man. We're going to believe who they think they are? Where has rational parents gone here? How in the world could any parent vote for somebody that's like this? I don't get it. It really boggles my mind. And forget about the fact, too, Tim Walz here. He's made Minnesota a big refuge for illegal aliens. He's provided illegal aliens with free college tuition. He's approved sexual material in elementary school for the classes. I mean, this guy is... It's amazing. They couldn't have gone farther to the left with this pick. It's really, really, and that's why I wanted to bring my friend Aly Legge on. She is the director of Moms for America, and I really wanted to get her take on this stuff because it is wild to see a ticket like this. This is the most dangerous ticket I think we've ever seen in this country with these two together. Elon Musk even put a tweet out yesterday about how Kamala Harris is just an outright communist. I mean, there's no hiding it. There's a reason why she doesn't get in front of the cameras and answer questions off the hip. She doesn't do that. She doesn't go off teleprompter. This whole thing is being carefully orchestrated. So if you're a dad, if you're a parent out there, please get other parents involved. Get them to the ballot box on November 5th and get them to vote against these lunatics, man. Now, how do the moms feel about this? This is why I wanted to bring Aly Legge on here. Nobody knows or has a finger on the pulse more than she does with the moms and the parents in this country. So she's the director, again, of Moms for America. I got the link to Moms for America down there in the description below. Let's bring her on here.
You're listening to the Alec Legge Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Aly Legge. Welcome back to the Alec Legge Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy doing our interviews like this.
Well, listen, I thought about you right away, just as I do all the parents in this country right now, when I seen that Kamala Harris chose this radical left-wing anti-parent choice for her VP. I couldn't believe this. And it's like, what was your initial reaction? Because mine was, you couldn't go more far to the left, yes, but you couldn't get more anti-parent than this governor of Minnesota here.
I'm going to be a little radical. I'm going to say I celebrated. I mean, what better way to win than to have somebody completely opposite of what Trump and Vance are? I mean, they are the complete antithesis of what America, liberty and freedom and sovereignty actually is. They are all about oppression. They are all about Hamas and terrorism. I mean, just take a look at what Walz has done since 2020, what Kamala has done since her career when she was sitting governor or AG in California. I mean, the evidence is just, it's surmountable. Okay, they are crazy. That's the other side. They're wild.
Yeah. Well, and it's also too that the fact that this guy, you know, Walz in Minnesota, it's a sanctuary city for these transgender youth kids. Right. You don't have, like, you have some of these states that pass laws where the teachers don't have to tell the parents about the gender, which is radical and crazy enough. But in Minnesota, absolutely, they could get the sex changed. They call it gender affirming care, which is just mutilation. You could do that without even having to tell the parents. I mean, this is insanity that's happening here.
Right. So, and obviously on a serious note, this guy is a danger to our parents. He's a danger to our children. He's a danger to almost literally every American because of their policies. I mean, when you make a sanctuary state where children that can run away from their homes in other states and come to your state so that they can get their healthy breasts chopped off, their penises chopped off, or to get puberty blockers, which are essentially sterilizing our children, this is absolutely wild. It is insane that you cannot tell a parent how they can responsibly raise their children while they're sitting at these rallies and at these meetings, and they're touting how wild and crazy we are because we're telling them that they can't. We're trying to keep pornography books out of our classrooms. I mean, this is the difference here. Not to mention, he allowed Minnesota to completely go under fire. 2020, Minnesota was a complete wreck in 2020. The summer of love is what we like to call it, right? Where he had a snitch line where if you were remote, stayed at home, you could tattle on your neighbors. How communist is that, right? You can sit there and he told the National Guard that he held them off for a whole day. His daughter actually leaked some of the National Guard's movements so that the protesters knew where to go, when to go, how to go, and how long they had before they were caught. I mean, this is the guy. You really want this guy to be vice president? What?
Yeah, and then his wife saying like, "Oh, I left the windows open so I could smell the aroma of the burning tires because that was just a hallmark of
people." I mean, there were people that were murdered there. Like this is the kind of energy, this is the kind of family, this is the kind of morals and values that you want to be leader of the free world, sitting at the top, right? That is completely crazy to me, and I don't see how they win. I really don't. I don't see how they win.
It doesn't seem like it's possible whatsoever unless there's some kind of cheating that's involved. It seems like it's the only way. And everything about this whole campaign is fake. The whole thing, everything that we're seeing about this stuff is fake. From the fake phone call that she made. Oh, hi, she did it with Obama. She does it with that rapper. Oh, I'm out here on these streets, girl. Everything is fake, you know? So I can imagine the only way that they pull this off is if they rig it. But getting back to Tim, the Walz as just a radical anti-parent guy, this is also too, they call him Tampon Tim. And they're trying to say like, oh, it's a good thing that he's providing tampons and stuff like that. When you're talking about putting tampons in the men's room and you say it with a straight face, or putting tampons in the boys' room and you talk about that seriously, it's hard to imagine having another conversation with somebody after you hear them say, I think it's a good idea to have tampons in the boys' room. From that moment, you go to a mental institution or I never talk to you again. It's one of those two options.
Serious. How can a grown-up take you seriously if you're talking about putting female products in a men's bathroom? Why is it always the men or the boys that are trying to get into the girls' restrooms and into the girls' sports? It's never the other way around. Not ever has it ever been the other way around. Women don't want to be in men's sports. Women don't want to be in men's spaces. Women don't want to be in their locker rooms or in their bathrooms. We want our own space. It has been that way for a very long time. And what the Biden-Harris regime has done is completely stripped that away. And this governor, Tim Walz, Tampon Walz, whatever you want to call him, Tampon Tim, it is ridiculous that he has even fixed his face to say that tampons belong in a boy's bathroom. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, like I can't even believe, and I say this all the time, like I can't believe these are conversations we're having. Like I'm speaking to you about this, and it's a serious thing that is happening. It blows my mind.
I feel like we're in the Twilight Zone, Alec. Like I don't know how to take these people seriously. It is not a serious conversation when you are trying to say that healthy children at the age of 12 can be sterilized. They can change their gender, which is impossible. It is impossible. If you can change your gender, why is lopping off body parts helping you do that? If sex is not an organ, right? You all are telling us that this is what it is, then why is changing your body parts make you what that is? That doesn't make any sense at all. None of this makes any sense. Not even to mention, Alec, the DNC convention hasn't even happened yet. How do we have a vice president candidate and a presidential candidate? I don't understand that. They completely disenfranchise the entire base. The entire base.
In the name of democracy.
Which is wild because that's not democratic at all.
And Aly, could you imagine for a second if Donald Trump didn't get one vote or win one delegate in the primary, won no contests, and then the GOP just installed him as the candidate? Could you imagine what the media would be doing right now?
It would have exploded. It would have exploded. I honestly feel like this is just a way for them to get off of the news cycle of the failures of the Secret Service and how our government has seemingly had its hands in the assassination attempt against President Trump. That's really what I think this is, because there is no reason to have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz up on some pedestal on all of these media platforms when there hasn't been a convention. Nobody has been chosen to be the delegate. No one has been chosen to be the candidate, and yet we still can't figure out who and why and how our presidential candidate, who is a former president, was shot in the face. I don't understand. Like, what are we even talking about?
The media has completely moved on from it. You don't even see anything about. I've seen more things on the news about the Kennedy assassination in the last 2 weeks than I have about the one that just happened to our former president and future president. So it's wild to me. But let me get back to this here with Tim Walz, because I'm really this pick has really fired me up, because here's another guy. Now, abortion, we know, Aly, is a contentious issue where people stand. We know right now it goes back to the states. You couldn't go farther to the left on abortion than this guy, who sees it. There's no limit. And he signs a bill where if the baby is born alive, you let the baby die and you don't reset. You can't get more extreme on the abortion issue than this lunatic.
His bill has murdered babies that have been born after a botched abortion, or even it's grotesque, the things that this man has done. And if you are going to vote for this is what you are condoning. You are condoning the open border, which has led to human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, organ trafficking through the freaking roof, right? We have cartels running our borders. The Border Patrol doesn't even have control over our border right now. It's all cartel. Okay. That's from my intel that I have. They're not allowed to do their jobs, and that is because of the Biden-Harris administration. And then you sit here and you have this radical vice presidential candidate who has he's completely anti-family, completely anti-child, completely anti-American. It's all, they're controlled by Hamas is really what it is. That's the only way I can see it. What we're up against right now is in November of this year, November 5th, is, do you want pro-terrorism or do you want pro-American freedom? Like, that's where we're at. And it seems very tongue-in-cheek, because I just can't believe that we're actually here having this conversation. Alec, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I know that this is very serious, but at the same time, how can I take somebody serious who is the antithesis of everything that we have built here in America over the last 262 years?
Also too, the optics of it too, where Kamala Harris goes on the same stage as Trump, and for the black community, she brings up this Megan Thee Stallion, which is an absolute trash, and so this is supposed to be her catering and pandering to the black community. Like, this is who we idolize, this absolute gutter trash that she brings up there. And then here comes Trump in the same building, brings up an educated, well-spoken black woman who knows the issues and lights the place on fire. She stole the show. And there's a difference. And the media melts down. Oh my God, Kamala had Megan Thee Stallion, as if this is something to be proud of. Like, that's the whole idea. Like, do you want your kids looking up to the girl that Kamala brought up or the girl that Trump brought up? And the answer is clear if you're a parent.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't have these political rallies, right, where children are coming to these in attendance, and you have a grown woman with other grown women wearing very tight, very skimpy clothes, shaking their behinds to the beat of the music, and expect that to be something of reverence. Like, how can we respect someone like that? I don't understand why why that's considered pandering to the Black community. Like, the Black community we don't want any of that. Like, we want our children to be raised right. We want our kids to understand, how to respect themselves and how to earn respect from others. That this is not that. It's almost as cringy as having Hillary Clinton when she brought out the Tabasco sauce or the hot sauce out of her purse. Like, what are we doing here? And I don't understand how people can't see it. Wow.
It's like Jill Biden with the bodegas. She couldn't even say the word bodega. She calls them all breakfast tacos. It's like
breakfast tacos.
And you have the governor of New York. Black kids don't even know what the word computer means.
Joe Biden, we want Black kids to be as smart as white kids. Like, the party that is for inclusion is for exclusion. The party that talks about disenfranchised people are actually disenfranchising people. They are the racists. They are the radicals. They are the ones that want your children for the government. They don't want you to have access to your kids. They want to be able to take them to do whatever they want with them, obviously, with the open border and human trafficking. And then we have sex trafficking. And then we have the genital mutilation, the sterilization of our kids, putting them in front of drag queens and predators, making it a sanctuary state. California is now a sanctuary state where it's made for pedophiles. They changed sexual orientation. Walz did this in Minnesota. He changed the word sexual orientation the definition to include pedophilia. That is the kind of vice president we have as a candidate right now for the Democrat Party. They're not even Democrats right now. They're communists. We need to call them what
100%.
they are.
Yeah, 100%.
What they are, and focus on policy, period.
And that's what it is, trying to have these kind of conversations, like without all of the rhetoric. It's like a serious conversation. There's nobody that I have found ever, Aly, that agrees that there should be men that are allowed to be in the girls' room. There's no one I've talked to on either side that thinks this is a rational idea. It's a losing situation. Yet in the media, they make it sound like it's such a popular thing. Nobody wants this. Everyone knows it's ridiculous. And then back to Tim Walz, like you're talking, they want the power from the state to control the children, not the parents. They want to take the power away from the parents and give it to the state because they're Marxists, these people. And then you talk about abortion for kids under 18 in Minnesota. They don't have to tell the parents. They don't need parental consent. And even after they do the abortion to this child, they don't even inform the parent that this happened. So you have a kid now that went through a traumatic experience. Who knows how she got pregnant, what the circumstances were. And now she's not even required to tell the parents, who have no idea now what's going on with their own child, because they feel the almighty state is the only one that matters.
And that is dangerous, Alec. That is the most dangerous. We have the most dangerous political ticket right now in 2024. I am beside myself. I'm beside myself. I cannot believe that in a million years, this is what America would be facing.
Yeah, and you have people thinking like, oh, well, that's okay, but at least we'll have the first woman president, or we'll have the first person of color like, who cares? Like, this is what they're concerned. And then you have TikTokers on there that are doing these Camilla dances and trendy things, and it's like, man, what has happened here? Like, you're watching this in real time. The former president almost gets shot. No one's even talking about it. You got these lunatics up there that are talking about how they're going to take control over your own children, and no one cares. It's like everything has been turned upside down, and like you said, we're walking around in a real life Twilight Zone here.
Like, and when you have these conversations with people out in the street that are not politically savvy like we are, we're the weird ones, Alec. We're in this all day long, every day. Like, we don't stop. We eat, breathe, sleep this, right? But for the average American, they are really only concerned about how much money they're spending in gas, how much money they're spending at the grocery store. None of this other stuff is really touching them, touching every American on an everyday basis. I mean, there are some situations where we have some schools that have lost their minds and all of that, and especially with Minnesota. But my issue is that people need to have these conversations. You have to go and have these conversations. Hey, did you know that the vice presidential candidate for the Democrat Party does this, and that? Have that conversation with your neighbor. Go talk to the person that's helping you fill your grocery bags at the shopping mart. Like, go do that, because most people don't understand what's really going on here. And the fact that we have kids that are on TikTok, mind you, she's paying them. So she's paying them over $150 per TikTok or per like or whatever it is in order for them to advocate for her candidacy, which is completely wild to me. I don't understand how that's even happening. Where does even any of this money come from? How is this not an FEC violation? Excuse me. I've been talking all day. So it's so confusing. There are so many different parts to this that, as somebody that is politically savvy, we understand how campaigns work. We understand how the FEC's filings go. We understand all of the news cycles. Like, this is just, it's overwhelming is really what it is. And I can't believe that Tim
I get the same way that you do right there, because I feel like there's 100 million things that I want to say, and it's like, if I don't calm down and say each one individually, I'm going to get lost, because it's so overwhelming. Now, talking about the TikTokers, Donald Trump just did this interview with this Aiden Ross kid. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of him. My kids all knew who he was. This thing exploded, over 100 million views. It's the most ever watched thing on that Kick channel, and so he has got to do more of those with these streamer guys, because that is where these young kids like mine, the late teens, early 20s, they are living on these streaming channels. And so I know that they had one of them said that Harris has been reaching out to try to get him on a stream, and they're turning him down. So I think he definitely needs to do more of those. I know Monday he's going to do an interview on X with Elon Musk, and that thing is going to really just break the internet.
I am so excited for that. I mean, I love all things Donald Trump, because he is literally the epitome of America. I mean, the man got shot for all of us. Okay. Like, how can you not love a man like that? Right. And then stands up, and the first thing he says is, "Where's my shoes?" and fight to the audience. Like, come on. The
legend.
guy is built of strength. He's made of steel, and I'm here for it. But yes, on that aspect of including the younger generation, Gen Z. I mean, I'm on a show called The Home Front, and we have a Gen Z panel all the time, every Friday. And it is amazing seeing how politically informative they are. They want to be involved in the process. They're seeing what I've seen and some other candidates my age have seen, where you go into these Republican clubs and it's a lot of the old guard, a lot of the older people that are there. They don't really like the new ideas. But Donald Trump understands that is how you are going to win, is by getting the younger ones, the ones that are just turning 18, the ones that are they're 22, 23, 24, 25. They understand what it was 4 years ago, right? They know what it looked like 4 years ago. The older ones, they're kind of stuck in their heels are dug in the mud, right? Which is why you have some of the people, there's 20 golf carts down in Palm Beach that came out, or in the Villages that came out for the Harris campaign, 20, but when they did it for Trump, it was like 157. Like, there's no comparison here between the two campaigns. And honestly, it doesn't really matter who came up against as the Democrat nominee. I believe that President Trump is going to win, but it has to take every single one of us to make sure that we're poll watching, poll working, we're door knocking, making phone calls, and we're talking to our neighbors in order for us to win. Because if not, they will. And I'm sure they'll try. So I'm a little worried about what the next couple of months is going to look like, especially when you have Tim Walz as the vice president who allowed his city to completely burn down in 2020. And Kamala Harris, who is completely inept just as much as he is for allowing the border to remain open the way it is. And now we have terrorist sleeper cells, and God only knows what can happen in the next few months. So I'm a little worried, Alec.
Yeah, me too. It's got to be all hands on deck. All hands on deck here, no doubt. And just the last thing on the Gen Z, like my oldest son, he just turned 18, graduated high school this past June. And so it's like he sees it, because it's like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to be able to get your own apartment right now, be able to pay for your own stuff right now?
Right.
Like, you're not in a position to do that, because no matter how much money you're making at that age, it ain't enough to sustain your own apartment. God forbid you wanted to try to buy a house or buy a new car. It's like, you can't do these things. And it was possible for people when Donald Trump was in office, when the inflation wasn't what it is now, when the prices for gas weren't crazy. You had more of a chance to sustain your own self and be self-reliant. Now, kids 18 and early 20s, they're all living at home. They're all living at home because there's no way they can get out. It's not affordable for them to do it. The prices have gone crazy.
Kids that are coming out at home from college, they have no job. They can't live on their own. Even if they're working 2 or 3 jobs to try and make ends meet, they can't do it. So they're having to live with their parents. We have single moms that can't afford food. We have people that are in relationships that they can't be in or don't want to be in, or are in abusive relationships they can't leave because of the economic turmoil that we're dealing with. So, I mean, this economy touches everybody. It really does. It touches everybody. The lowest person on the totem pole to the highest person on the totem pole. Everybody's feeling it right now. So that is really what we're up against. What do you want? What do you want to see? Do you want government to completely control every single aspect of your life? Or do you want freedom and liberty to live as you wish, as you can, to fight for your American dream? That is what's on the ballot this election cycle.
Yeah, well said, Ali. Yeah, we cannot let these communist, anti-parent people into the office. So we got to do whatever we can. That's why I reached out. I said, I got to get you. You know, I know the dads that I talked to were pissed. I know the moms got to be. What do you got, Moms for America? What's going on over there with you guys?
So Moms for America, we are actually going up to DC twice. We're going for the March for Kids, which is August 31st in DC, and that is essentially just to march for our children. We're there to tell them that we parents have the authority over our children, not government. Hello, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. In case you're paying attention, you do not have the authority over our children. We do, and we are here to advocate for them, and that is what the March for Kids is about. We will be there on the 31st of August. We're also going to be there with a couple of other moms from around the country. A few of our state leaders will be joining us in DC to advocate against the EATS Act, which essentially protects our farms. Like, we want our farms protected. We want our food protected. We don't want China to own our farmland. We don't want foreign adversaries to own our farmland. I mean, like, this is not rocket science. This is not radical. This is like common sense. America should own American farmland, period. End of story. So we will be focusing on the Senate when we go up there, and that'll be from September 9th to the 12th. But we're also making sure that we're putting out all of these talking points, the policies, right? The policies of Harris and Biden, the policies of Tim Walz, so that our moms understand that their vote matters. You have to go out and vote and talk to your neighbors, talk to your moms, talk to your circle of influence, and let them know that you, as a parent, do not support these people. We also have our congressional report card that came out. So anybody that has not voted in line with moms, families, and America First, they got a hammer and sickle award, which is the communist award, because you obviously are a communist if you do not align and vote for America, Americans, and American interests, period. So that's what we have at Moms for America.
I love what you guys bring to the table. I got the link from Moms for America down there in the description below. You're a force multiplier. We definitely need your voice. I love to be in the fight here with you. And God help us in getting Donald Trump back in there. I'm sure I'll have you on before we get to the election day. Aly Legge, thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Alec Legge Show.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. I like spending time with you. So we'll see each other soon.
You got it. All right, honored to have Aly Legge on the podcast here. What you guys think about that conversation? Hit me with a comment down below. But, man, I'm telling you, parents, that's the way it is. It's all hands on deck here. I mean, this is, we can laugh. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of things to laugh and joke about when it comes to this Kamala Harris and Tim Walz ticket. But I'm telling you, it is scary. It is dangerous to think these two people could have control of the country. Dangerous. So this is as serious as it gets here. And of course, like when we were talking, she does not answer questions off the hip to the media. She will not do it. They are going to carefully bring her to November without ever having to do any of that stuff, because it's all going to be protected. Now, J.D. Vance got off the plane yesterday in Wisconsin, went right over to her plane. Here's a picture from that. This picture went viral, right? He goes over to confront her. She doesn't confront him. She runs away. Now, the media is all there, waiting for Kamala Harris, who she doesn't go and address because she's afraid of the media, or she's not allowed to go talk to the media. The handlers will not allow her to do it, so J.D. Vance stepped up to the mic for her. Take a look.
I also thought you guys might get lonely because the vice president doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. Have they given you guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? No? Nobody? Okay, great. Well, I hope that you changes her mind, because it'd be good for the American people, and I think it'd be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign instead of one from a basement. Anyway, we're going to go do our event. I appreciate you guys being here. I wish she paid you some more attention. See ya.
Now, if you're in the media, you got to love J.D. Vance because you need material. You need content. Kamala Harris doesn't give that to you. It's been 14 days or however many days, 17 days, whatever it's been since since she was installed as the candidate. Not one press conference. Hasn't answered one question. So you have to, if you're in the media and you're in the press and you're there for that gaggle waiting, you have to love J.D. Vance. The fact that he came over and gave you content, gave you material, because Kamala Harris isn't doing it. And then you have at the rally that she's at, she had some other performer on that I never heard of, but he's a big deal in that town. He put on a free concert. But when she comes up there, the people are screaming. The chant was, "This is democracy." You can't make this up. They're chanting, "This is democracy," at the rally for Kamala Harris, when Kamala Harris did not get her position as the nominee democratically. It's completely anti-democratic, the way that she was picked. The way that they forced Joe Biden out, they pushed him out of the way and installed Kamala Harris. You couldn't be more anti-democratic than that. And here's people in the crowd screaming, "This is democracy." What have they done? Get everybody to drink the Jim Jones Kool-Aid? Like, what has happened to people? Man, and just like we were saying to Aly there too, it's like, does anybody remember the Trump assassination attempt? You guys remember that? The media has completely blocked that out. You don't hear anything about it at all. And it's recent American history. That's one of the most historical events that's ever taken place. And we don't even hear anything about it. The media doesn't talk about it. If you're not on X, you haven't seen anything about this in weeks. So this, in my opinion, this was 100% an inside job. The more you learn about it, and the fact that it's disappeared from the headlines completely is another telling factor that this thing is just, let's move along, brush it along. But I want to get Erik, I'm going to bring on Erik Prince now. He's a former Navy SEAL, founder of Blackwater. I want to get his take on Tim Walz with this stolen valor. Also want to talk about the Trump assassination, see how much more we can get involved in here. So let's do this.
You're listening to the Alec Legge Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Erik Prince. Welcome to the Alec Legge Show.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
Well, a few things I wanted to get your take on. Number one, right now, everything trending about this vice president pick from Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, he's come under fire for stolen valor. And I know something in your community, this is not something that's highly looked upon at all. So I wanted to kind of get your take. This is a guy that says he was in combat when he wasn't. He uses a rank that he was demoted from, and he also left his platoon or his guys before they went to war. So I wanted to get your take on it.
Look, I never want to attack somebody for joining the military because there's so few that actually do. So I commend him for at least having served. But the idea of being a brother in arms and actually being the senior enlisted person, right? The wingman of the commander of a battalion to suddenly decide to retire while that unit is going to go into combat, it's a really bad look. It's not, there's no good way to spin that for the Democrats in any way, shape, or form. But the problem is most people don't understand just how bad that is because, again, nobody serves in the military anymore. And that's a real tragedy for America.
Well, that's what I was saying, Erik, because I'm a civilian guy. I've never been in the military. I always respect everybody that does it. Like I said, I respect Tim Walz's service. There's nothing wrong with his service the way he did it. I don't know why he needs to embellish what he did and say that he carried weapons of war into war. When you do that, I think you cross a line that just kind of makes everyone say, why do you have to do that? Just stand on what your service was as it is. Be honest with the people and then apologize for saying something like that.
Well, again, he collected drilling pay for serving in the National Guard, but then the one time the Guard was called upon to go into combat, that he's opting out is just, I guess you join, and when you talk to combat veterans, when they're actually in it, they're not in it just for God and country and Congress. They're in it for the brothers that are with them. And so to turn away from those brothers that he's going to go to combat with, I couldn't live with that. No way.
Yeah, well, he's definitely under the gun for that now. And talking about the gun, his speech that he was giving when he made the comments, one of the speeches when he was talking about how he carried weapons of war in war, it was really an anti-Second Amendment speech, is what he was giving, because this is a guy that wants to take the gun rights away from the people. And this is a guy also too. When he took controls, he touts about how he made guns harder to get. He cracked down. He put in all this, different types of gun laws. Yet since he took control of Minnesota, homicides have gone up 50%. Carjacking's gone up 163%. So what this guy's doing ain't working, and he wants to bring that entire philosophy to the rest of America.
Yeah, and on top of that, he modified the Minnesota flag to look more like Somalia's because of the Somali contingent that dominates Minneapolis. So it's an odd pick. I'm surprised. It's very much a flex from the hard left end of the Democrat Party, and we'll see. We'll see. America is really doomed if it chooses that ticket to personify our government for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I agree. It's the most communist ticket I think we've ever seen. So let me get you. I wanted to have you on last week because if you remember, Trump almost had his head blown off on live TV. It seems like that's been erased from history now. But last week we got this video, and I really wanted to get your take on it, where they had told us that this Matthew Crooks was so hard to see because he was crouching down the entire time. But then we get this video from a guy that was actually shot at the rally where you could see Crooks moving, standing up, and he's moving pretty quickly. And it's almost impossible to miss him. And one of the odd things, too, is you could see just how close the top of that building was just from that video. How in the world did these guys miss it? So I just wanted to get your take on the latest on this assassination attempt.
I have no doubt that Secret Service counter snipers could see something moving across the earth, across the roof line. I would say they had such bollocksed up communications with the SWAT team that was supposed to be covering that area that they probably couldn't delineate whether it was a SWAT cop or whether it was a terrorist that was lining up to do it. And again, it is a complete breakdown of professionalism, of coordination, of the leadership that's required by the Secret Service. If they're going to be in charge of those venues, be in charge, make those decisions. And again, there's been really no consequences. The director was forced to resign because Congress, in a rare act of bipartisanship, was actually going to get rid of her. But even the guy that took her place hasn't fired anybody. And again, until there is a culture of actual accountability, that we will applaud and promote excellence and we will crush incompetence, that culture has to be restored, not just in the Secret Service, but across the U.S. government, or we're going to continue to be embarrassed and to have major setbacks. And America, not just Donald Trump, dodged a bullet, because imagine the chaos that would ensue if the Republican, likely next president of the United States, was assassinated due to purely federal government incompetence that was supposed to be protecting him.
Yeah, it would be wild. And it's wild that they've kind of moved on from it. Like, you don't even see anybody talking about it. There's nothing like, there's been no 2020 special, like 2 hours special done on this. Nothing. They've just kind of moved on from it. But those hearings that we did get from Congress with the Secret Service and the FBI, it makes it even worse. Like the kid was flying a drone around the grounds, but the Secret Service saying their drone wasn't working. Like, we didn't have the Wi-Fi signal, but this kid had it. Like, none of that makes any sense. It's like, how, there's no guy on the water tower. Everyone's like, how could this, Eli Crane and Rep Mills, these guys weren't even put on the task force. So Speaker Johnson gets a task force. He don't put the two guys that have been on the ground there. One guy is SEAL sniper, and he doesn't include them in this. So some of the things don't make any sense.
It's another clear indication of how accountability has to be restored to our government. And I think, look, the Constitution is great on this. Our founding fathers were brilliant. Most of our government activity should be at the local level, and what they can't handle is handled at the state level. The reason our country is so effed up right now is because the federal government has gotten so large, so obese, and so unaccountable that they're continuing to allow to get away with insanity, and no one holds them accountable, and no one even forces any kind of fiscal restrictions on them. If people really want to push back on this, get in the face of every person in Congress that sits on the Appropriations Committee and make them spend less money. Until the money is choked off, the beast will continue to thrive and grow at the expense. Government grows at the expense of liberty, And that is it's just another horrifically embarrassing example of why our bloated federal government sucks.
Yeah, bigger the government, the smaller the people. That's why we need that Javier Milei type mentality of fuera, cut this stuff,
Any man that campaigns with a chainsaw, I can identify with.
Yeah, and also too now, Eric, you had this guy Asif Merchant, a Pakistani national. Now that they uncovered his plot to kill possibly Donald Trump on the hit list, but other political figures. So who knows how many of these type of people?
I'm proudly on that list.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I was informed by the FBI that I was on that Iranian hit list. I'm very proud. I'm one of the 2 civilian non-government officials that made the Iranian hit list. And it's just more nonsense. He was busted, but how many have walked across the southern border that are waiting somewhere?
Yeah, to make the list, that's got to be a badge of honor for you, I would imagine. But yeah, we talk about this pimply face Matthew Crooks. What if this was like an organized, Iranian task team that was, training for years for something like this? There would have been nothing they could have done to stop this. Nothing.
That's exactly right. I said that before. A 20-year-old managed to get multiple aimed shots off at the president of the United States and drew blood from his head. Imagine what a 10-man Hezbollah team would have done. And it's embarrassing. It's unacceptable. And America should demand better.
And let me just shift over, if I could, there, Eric, to get your take on what's going on.
Can you just imagine how the outcry from the left if Barack Obama took a round to the head?
We'd still be hearing about it.
We'd be hearing about it for the next 30 years.
There's no doubt. Yeah, it's amazing. This is the same. It's the same thing that we're saying. Like, I don't know why we had January 6th. They're still talking about this. Like every weekend, you still hear it. I hear more about like the Kennedy assassination than I do about Trump's assassination attempt or Reagan's assassination attempt. We don't hear anything anymore about this. They've kind of swept it under the rug and they don't even address it anymore. And it's, and I don't even know why, people even within Congress have stopped talking about it. Like get out there and get in front of this and keep this thing on the forefront, because it's one of the most historical events that we've had in recent history that happened here, and everyone has got amnesia already.
And a fireman died who took a bullet to the head. This was not some shots in the air making noise. Multiple people had blood drawn, including a fireman who was killed, shot in the head, trying to protect his kids. It's a whole pile of wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a murder that was committed there too as well. So, and again, no one's been held accountable. No one's had their feet held to the fire over it, and it's disgraceful. I wanted to get your take on what we were talking about. How obviously our country's being invaded here, and the UK has been invaded as well, and now we're seeing the results of that over there right now, as they're on like the brink of a freaking civil war over there. And you have the prime minister who's threatening to lock up citizens just for retweeting stuff on social media. And it just seems like that's kind of a roadmap of what we're going to look like if we continue on the same path. So what's your take on what's happening in the UK?
Well, that's why we have a First Amendment, and that's why we have a Second Amendment, which guarantees the First Amendment. And it's interesting. I was meeting with a British friend today, and he talked about even when in 1775, when the colonies were resisting against the king trying to assert sovereignty over the area in a way that was not acceptable, very, very similar to what he did. Because remember, even in the English Civil War, 100 and some years earlier, the king entered Parliament and was demanding to be able to raise taxes, and that was against their policy for the king to go in to raise taxes, and that ended in the English Civil War with the king being beheaded. And the Glorious Revolution, like 1588. There's a reason the Magna Carta exists. It defines the role of citizens versus their government. There's a reason our Constitution exists, and I think what our founding fathers did in writing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which personify, especially the Bill of Rights, which specifically limits the power of the federal government. It is so important, and we must vigorously, by all means, defend those 10 rights, and especially the 10th Amendment, because any power not specifically delegated to the federal government remains the sole purview of the states. And so much of our problems in America exist because the federal government has just gotten massively too far reaching and does way too many stupid things. Let the state solve that. And so the Brits are going to have to go through some valid discussions. The working man in Britain has been screwed. There has been absolutely unaccountable runaway immigration and grooming gangs and a lot of nonsense permitted by British elites to the detriment of the working and middle class. And they're angry, and they're right to be angry.
And just like you said, working people here in America are getting screwed as well, like myself. You know, I'm a railroad mechanic. I'm a blue-collar guy, and we've just been getting buried because of this Biden-Harris administration. But it just seems like to the normal guy, why is it? We see that they're allowing the UK to get destroyed. We see our own country being allowed to get invaded and destroyed, and we just wonder why. What is the purpose? What is the goal? Why do these people want to destroy the only place left on the planet that's a beacon of freedom and hope and light? Why do they want to destroy it?
It's the same socialist lie that if they just think that if they're in charge and they can pull the levers, that they'll make this socialist nirvana. But we know socialist nirvana ends up looking like hell. I remember that. I spent my 7th birthday in 1976 in East Berlin at the height of the Cold War. And so you had East Germany and West Germany. And East Germany was the personification of Soviet communism. And you know what? As a 7-year-old, I remember seeing the guns and the dogs and the minefields and the tank traps literally locking people into East Germany, preventing them from leaving. Like, they shoot you if you go up to the fence. And even for a 7-year-old, I could figure that out. Holy shit, this socialist nirvana is not so great if you have to force people to stay. That's why tens of millions of people are running away from Venezuela. That's why tens of millions of people are running away from Africa, Pakistan, India, poorly governed places that don't really have the same rule of law, capitalist opportunities that we used to have in America, that we're slowly grinding away and diminishing. That's why America is the last best hope and must be defended, to make our government small and to make our freedom big again.
Yeah, no doubt. I know I'm running up against the clock, Eric. Last thing you mentioned it there. Last thing I wanted to get your take on was the Venezuela situation. Maduro now trying to, smoke out the opposition and just crush everybody that's standing up against him in an obviously stolen election. So what's your take on what's happening down there in Venezuela?
It'll be a real testament to the test of the Biden administration, because the last 2 elections that they've stolen, they've gotten away with it. And they crush the opposition. They lock them up. They beat them. They torture them. And the U.S. government does nothing, no consequences. I hope for the Venezuelan people, they can find their grit and their nerve, and they reclaim their freedom. But, it's a sad case. They voted in socialism. They voted in Chavismo. And sadly, you can vote in socialism, but you have to shoot your way out.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we seem like we're headed in that direction. I pray to God we can turn this around. Erik Prince, I'd love to have you on again down the line. I can talk to you all day. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Aly Legge Show.
Call me anytime. Cheers.
All right, honored to have Erik Prince on the podcast. What you guys think about our conversation? Hit me with a comment down below. Hit the like button if you're enjoying this podcast, and don't forget to follow the channel here on Rumble. Honored to get Erik on the show here. I love his take, and again, these are people that have served in the military, I think, are affected the most by what has happened from Tim Walz. I mean, it pisses them off. Obviously, me as a civilian, I'm offended by it. I think it's crazy. I think it's demonic to do something like that, but it doesn't hit me the way it hits combat veterans, the way it hits other members of the military. So there's no worse crime I think you can commit in that military than to steal valor and to say that you were something that you weren't. I mean, that is like you become persona non grata instantly when you do that. And so a lot of the veterans in this country are pissed off about what this guy has done. And, of course, the Trump assassination attempt, you would think there'd be all kinds of documentaries, 2020 special, Dateline, you would think there'd be a whole 48-hour miniseries dedicated to this thing. Nothing. We're not seeing anything at all about it because they just want it to go away. They don't want anything about it to be, seen in front of the public. We don't want to put it out there. You would think this would be where's 48 hours? You would think you would have every one of these major crime drama series, unscripted TV shows would be all over this thing, man. All over it. Not one miniseries, not one documentary done by a major major broadcast company. Nothing. No 2020, no Dateline, no nothing about it. It's wild to me that we haven't seen any of that. All right, you know what? Kamala Harris doesn't talk to the media, we know, but one guy who came under fire talking to the media and never shies away from it is Harrison Butker, who was back trending again yesterday because NFL is back in session. And so, of course, the media wants to get, Harrison, are you sorry for what you said? You offended women, and the NFL people were all upset. You have females working for the Chiefs and all this stuff. So they fired a few questions at Harrison Butker about his now famous commencement pro-family speech that he gave at a Catholic college. So here was what Harrison Butker had to say yesterday.
I've appreciated all the feedback. I know when it comes to football, I don't really look at the comments, good or bad, towards me, but with it being the off season and stating a lot of these things, I was really curious as to what people would be saying back to me, and I respected all the viewpoints. But in terms of what I said, I prayed about it and I thought about it, and I was very intentional with what I said, and I stand behind what I said. And I really believe if people knew me as a person and understood that I was coming from a place of love and not a place of trying to attack or put people down, that I only want the best for people, and that's what I was trying to say there. And I think the people that were in that gymnasium all understood what I was saying.
Along those lines, you said not putting people down. Some people obviously interpret that as putting women's value down, particularly in the workforce. What was your response to that?
I think, my whole career I've talked about how I'm a husband and I'm a father before it comes to me as a kicker. It's something I've always preached. But then when I use that to talk about women and I say that they should embrace and love being wives and being mothers over their career, I think then it gets construed that I'm trying to put women down, which I'm not at all. I love women, I love my wife, and it comes from a place of love. My wife had never heard me speak publicly, and she was there for that moment, and she was up in the background in one of the offices up there, and I was getting emotional looking at her crying and understanding that she has sacrificed so much for me. She has completely changed her life around, and she has made sure she is focused on being the ultimate wife and the ultimate mother, and I love her so much for that. And I see how happy and excited she is day to day to wake up and embrace that life. And she pushes me to be a better husband and a better father and focus on my 3 children and focus on her over maybe trying to be the best kicker I can be out on that field.
And there it is, folks. That is the anti-Tim Walz type of message. It is the pro-family message. It's the pro-mom message. It's the pro-dad message. The future of this country is family. We need the families in this country to wake up, rise up, get to the polls, and take our country back. It's going to be up to you, the parent out there, to make this happen. The parents are the silent majority in this year's election. Do not allow these anti-parent people to get in control of our country. Do not let it happen. We've got to wake up. We've got to do it for the parents, and we got to do it for the future of this country, for our children. Our children right now are growing up in a place where they're not going to be able to move out of your house. They're not going to be able to get their own apartment. They're not going to be able to get their own life, start their own legacy, build their American dream. It's all slipping away, and it's going to continue to go down the toilet if these 2 Marxist communists get into the White House. So parents, stay on your post, get to the ballot box, bring a friend, bring a fellow parent, bring it up. Don't be afraid and shy away from talking about these issues, because Kamala Harris doesn't talk about the issues. All she talks about is bullshit, all right? Don't be afraid to talk about the issues that are crushing these American families like mine in this country right now, and it's only going to get worse. So God bless Harrison Butker. We need that pro-family message right now in this country. And so more of that. And I've got more for you guys next week on the Alec Legge Show. I told you I'd give you an announcement at the end of today's podcast. Next week on the podcast, I will have Laura Logan joining me here on the Alec Legge Show. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a big fan of hers. So I'm looking forward to that. She'll be here on Thursday. Also next week, it's about to go down, the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris right here on the Alec Legge Show. The 2 best impersonators in the business, Sean Farash, Esty Palti. They're going to be here with me Thursday. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, a week from today, right here on Rumble. Also going to have Laura Logan on that show. It's going to be a big one. So make sure you follow me on X for all the details, and make sure you're following this channel here on Rumble. And listen, this week, this is it. I've been telling you guys about this. It's the Navy SEAL swim across the Hudson River. I've been training for this. I've been trying to raise money for it. If you guys want to help me in my cause, we just had August 6th was the 13-year I don't want to say anniversary, but it's been 13 years since Extortion 17, which was the single greatest incident, loss of life in naval special warfare history. So many of the Navy SEALs lost their brothers in that incident, and it's devastated that community. They've still not recovered from it, and they are honoring those men who died on that chopper on Saturday. It's one of the most patriotic events of the entire year. I'm honored that I'm going to get to be in the water with the frogmen making this swim. Help me raise money for the Navy SEAL Foundation. You got until Saturday. I'll put the link up on the screen here. It's also down in the description below. Please visit impact.navysealfoundation.org/Alec. That's impact.navysealfoundation.org/Alec. Anything you could contribute would go a long way to help it out. The Navy SEAL Foundation is the one that is, their whole focus is on the Gold Star families, the wounded Navy SEALs, and they take care of their own. So it's like a 99% rated charity. It's not one of these BS charities that takes the money and half of it goes towards them going out to dinner. It goes towards the families of the Navy SEALs who have fallen to protect their families. And it goes to the ones that have, come back with these, unbelievable, we've asked so much from our Navy SEAL community. And so I love the fact that I'm going to be there with them guys and have a chance to give back, and even if it's just in a minor way. So if you could help out, please visit the link and give what you can. All right. Honor to have Aly Legge and Erik Prince on the podcast today. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'll be back here on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, back on Rumble. Follow me on Twitter, or X, I should say, at Alec Legge. Don't forget, Monday night on X. If you're not on X, you're going to miss this one. If you're not on X, get on X, because Monday, you're going to have Donald Trump being interviewed by Elon Musk. This thing is going to go, he did 100 million views with the Aiden Ross guy on that Twitch or the Kick stream. This thing is going to be insanity, what he's going to do with this interview. So make sure, if you don't have an X account, get one now and don't miss out on that on Monday night. I'm looking forward to that one. All right, so God bless all you parents out there. God bless you listeners. God bless our police, first responders, our military, our veterans, and God bless America. I'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
You're listening to the Alec Legge Show. The future is family.